So why do companies internationalize? It's because they're looking at getting access to new markets, new customers, new talent base. You have to recognize there's going to be cultural differences. You have to be open to the fact that there is going to be, and at the same time willing to be addressing those to see how you can make changes. I read that Indians love a cup of tea. I only make coffee, I only have coffee. How can I make the perfect cup of tea? Now that is just so heartwarming.
Hello and welcome to The Shift, powered by ET Edge Insights. It's a platform where we talk to industry leaders discussing key issues that change the world we live in. And today we have with us Mrs. Tanaz Buhariwalla, who's the Director South Asia at IDA Ireland. Tanaz, welcome to ET Edge Insights.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
So, give us a brief summary of what exactly do you do here at IDA Ireland, the recent movements in the FDI space in an Indian context.
Sure, Jagjeet. So what I do with IDA Ireland is we help Indian companies set up in Ireland to do business in Europe. IDA Ireland is the first FDI agency that was set up in the world. It's as old as India, is more than 75 years old. And of course, now most countries have an FDI agency of their own, including India. So Invest India would be our FDI agency. Interestingly, Indian states also have their own little agencies promoting the particular state. From an IDA perspective, we've been encouraging companies from across the US going back in time to set up in Ireland. We went from being a low-cost economy to the high-cost economy it is today, the high-value economy it is today. And we have companies from across the US, Europe. And in the last 10, 15 years, we have companies from across the world setting up in Ireland. And of course, IDEA was set up in 2008 in India to help companies from India. We've had companies across pharma, medtech, IT, that is where we have many companies setting up. We have some startups, and by that I mean fast growth startups, use Ireland as well. And then there are some manufacturing companies. And of course, Invest India is a very successful agency helping foreign-owned companies come to India. I was reading some statistics, which is up to February 2025. India has seen almost double the number of investment in terms of value come into India in the last 11 months. Okay. So India is a very popular destination.
So given that your role entails bridging cultural gaps, right? How do you make sure that these two countries fully embrace the cultural values so that the businesses are successful?
Very, very valid question. Because so why do companies internationalize? It's because they're looking at getting access to new markets, new customers, new talent base. And also in today's world, it's about new innovations that they can access or they can tap into, be part of a global program. So companies are constantly looking at newer markets. There would be some traditional markets which would be very successful, very popular, like the UK or the US, just because they offer a large domestic market. And also because of the comfort that companies felt, Indian companies felt, because they thought they knew the markets, they knew people in those markets. From an Ireland perspective, or literally any company. Now, I've been doing this for 3 decades. I helped British companies come to India, and then I've been helping Indian companies go to the UK, and then Indian companies now going into Ireland. There are a number of factors that could delay or even just break the success of a company. It is very important that you have to recognize there's going to be cultural differences. You have to be open to the fact that there is going to be, and at the same time willing to be addressing those to see how you can make changes, how you can adapt. Let's say something like a style of communication. Typically, Asians tend to have a more cautious approach, a more indirect approach, and that stems from them not wanting to hurt feelings. Whereas in the West, people are more direct. People prefer a more, I won't say formal, but you just get to the point form of communication, and they see this as you being honest, as you being transparent. So this itself is such a cultural disparity that it is something companies need to be cognizant of. There's little habits as well. I'll share, I was working with a company and in India. They were looking to set up in Ireland. They did. But this gentleman who was the founder of the company, he'd constantly, I would be in mid-sentence with him and he'd constantly just answer a phone if it rang. That's it. I know it's rude, But at the same time, I know he wasn't being disrespectful to me. I knew that, but nobody else really understands. So when he went to Ireland to look at potential partners and just on a familiarization trip, I had to actually tell him that, look, when you're in a meeting, you don't answer a phone and you actually keep it on silent. If you just have to, you excuse yourself, you let the person complete. So it's small things like that. Another was a group of senior management from a company were traveling to Ireland to meet potential partners. And there was this founder of a small privately owned company who was going to meet them. And he calls me and says, I was researching on India and I know America, I know Americans. I read that Indians love a cup of tea. I only make coffee, I only have coffee. How can I make the perfect cup of tea? Now, that is just so heartwarming. But very few people look at things like that to, when they're looking at a bigger picture. Yeah, so
A small
it's a
cup of tea can bridge an international
absolutely,
divide.
absolutely. So it's all about the forms of communication. It's about these little behavioral aspects that kind of help in bridging gaps, in making people comfortable, in building trust, which is the most important factor.
Right. Now, in the Indian context, the IT and fintech space is growing, it's evolving with each passing day. Ireland is a pro business environment. It offers access to EU workforce. Tell us how India will navigate this European market through Ireland, through the resources that Ireland has, by maximizing on the resources that Ireland has.
When I started with IDA 15 years ago, there was less than 5 Indian companies in Ireland. Today, we have in excess of 70, and IDA works with about 30 companies actively on a regular basis, but we have a bigger number in Ireland. And this all came about, one, just the fact that companies began to know Ireland. So first is just the knowledge building. Ireland is part of the EU. After Brexit, it becomes even more strategically important because now you can access the only English-speaking country in the EU. It's a common law jurisdiction. So the access, the working in the EU becomes easier. Ireland also shares a very unique relationship with the UK because we have the same land border. And then there is a Northern Ireland Protocol as well. As per that, Ireland is in the sweet spot where you can access companies in the UK. You can trade with the UK, you can trade with the EU as well from Ireland. Like I said, we're English speaking, and there is free movement of people, goods and services, and capital. This talent mobility becomes extremely important. As it is, Ireland has a very young population. A third of Ireland's population is under the age of 35. A third again is our STEM graduates. So this is higher than all the EU average. So this shows you have a ready base of talent that you can access. Also, being part of the EU, you can bring people from other EU countries. For non-EU nationals, which includes India, there's a whole bouquet of visas you can access. So you will have a 30-day or a 90-day visa, work permit as well. Equally, you can have a 2-year work permit. So it's the people mobility, availability, and then people mobility, which also helps. So Indian companies are finding this as a very useful gateway where there is familiarity because of the language and the law. We also have a big base of companies, so like 9 of the top 10 pharma, 14 of the world's 15 medtech companies, 9 the top 10 IT companies, cybersecurity companies. We have all of these in Ireland, in the financial services sector as well. Insurance, banking, aviation leasing, fund management. We have the top companies in Ireland. So for companies, Indian companies, that want to partner with these companies, serve these companies, there is a ready market in Ireland. And again, we've seen companies benefit from that. You get access to the multilingual talent and, like I said, the skill talent as well. So you can serve your EU countries, your EU markets from Ireland. So all this put together is a very promising proposition. As much as the fact that the government is pro-business, the country is stable and secure, and our tax rate is 12.5% in Ireland. There's attractive R&D grants. There's a big thrust on sustainability and the SDG goals, etc. So all of this put together makes for a very compelling proposition, and Indian companies are taking advantage of that.
Okay, so picking up on the exceptional research and development bit, we know that Ireland's research and development space has been quite rich, when it comes to the pharmaceutical sector. How does India leverage this to accelerate its own pharmaceutical innovation?
Again, a very, very nice question. And in fact, we're having loads of conversations with pharma companies, medtech companies from India. India is a global pharmacy. We all know that. But equally, 30% of all Ireland's exports are pharma exports. So Ireland's a huge pharma cluster as well. And when I say pharma exports in terms of Ireland, I don't mean organic chemicals. I don't mean any of the extras. I just mean pure pharma exports. We have the 9 of the top 10 global pharma companies in Ireland. We have many other smaller companies feeding into these companies. We have local Irish companies as well. And then over a period, we've had research institutes. There is a NIBRT, which is the National Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training. It's a world-class institute. In fact, there are what we call baby NIBRTs in other parts of the world as well. So companies send their staff to be trained at NIBRT. We have examples of Indian companies doing the same. Then there is Research Center for Regenerative Medicine, something around stem cell. So there is specialism in all of this. And so there is the research institutes. Now, besides, there are also the educational institutions. And these are churning out the talent. So it's a holistic ecosystem which is underpinned by the government, which is very supportive. And then on the sides, you have the regulatory body. So Ireland has its own HPRA, the regulatory authority. Equally, we are very close to the European Medicines Association and the FDA from the US. This just goes to show that there is this very solid ecosystem. There are a few Indian companies, pharma companies in Ireland, manufacturing or managing their supply chain out of Ireland. To answer your question, the world of pharma is now blending with technology. We're using AI, ML, all of these quantum computing to bring about developments in research, in new products in the pharma sector. And in India, if you look at it, we have a strong pharma industry as much as an IT industry. So this is a perfect combination to use the low cost in India as well as the high skill in Ireland to form a blend that could be successful to companies in both countries. We have the global top 10 pharma companies in India as well, just as you have them in Ireland. So it's just about finding that right blend. And then Indian companies, the local Indian homegrown companies, they're looking at accessing newer markets. We know the world is changing as we know it at this point of time as well. So most of these companies are looking at options, options that are going to be sustainable in the longer term. And therefore, Ireland could be a solution. And like I said, there have been ongoing discussions with companies about that.
Right. So this essentially is an equation that strikes the right balance for both the parties.
Absolutely.
It's complementary.
It is complementary. Exactly. Yeah. We're not competing. We're just complementing. Yes.
Now, Tanaz, as someone who leads a diverse global team here at ID Ireland, diversity and inclusion have been very strong conversations these past couple of years. How do you see that evolving? How important is that? And how do we make the workplace a great place to be at?
Oh, this is so important. I'm a proponent myself of equality, diversity, and inclusion. In fact, proud to say that IDA, the organization, it's a government organization. We're the first government gold accredited government organization in Ireland in the EDI space. And I was part of the founding committee for EDI in IDA. So very big proponent, and enough and more research shows that a diverse team that feels it belongs to the organization can actually be a very productive team. The organization can only reap benefits. To answer your question, there will be different techniques to manage. Depends on the size of the organization, the number of people in the team. It depends on the composition of the team, what work they do. But certain principles just remain constant. So for example, it's about open communication, just having that open platform where any employee feels comfortable to come and share. And for that, from a management point of view, you don't just have to say the right things, you have to walk the talk. You have to build the confidence in your team that you mean what you say. It always comes from the top, yes? You've got to demonstrate, like I said, and equally you have to be open to hearing. Now, we're humans, all of us are, even a leader is a human. We have our own biases. We have our own perceptions. So it's important to keep an open mind to be able to take feedback as well. And so that's where the whole communication piece comes from. And then you have to foster collaboration within the team. So that's fine, you one-on-one with as a leader with your team member, but you want to foster collaboration within team members. Ensure that everyone feels they belong, but everybody else ensures that everyone feels they belong. It's a two-way street, and it falls onto the leader to ensure that that environment is created in the organization. And also, like I said, active listening. And we have to be, as a leader, empathetic at all points of time.
We spoke about Ireland's young populace. It's a highly educated population. How do you think Indian companies benefit from this? And how do they learn how to, sort of manage a young population? Because this is a similarity that India shares with Ireland, being one of the youngest countries. How do you navigate this space?
Right. So in Ireland, you're right, it's a young population, and it's a population that's coming from across the world. So again, it feeds back into the integration, ensuring that the staff is integrated. And we've all heard of it, that, the newer generation, the younger generation need a little different handling.
Right.
But the bottom line everywhere is being respectful, is open communication, is about ensuring that you send the right message downwards, what the organization needs, what is expected, but at the same time, take feedback into what is it that the younger generation requires. There's no right formula. It's basically company-based. Many companies get it wrong across countries.
Right.
And I think we've got some good practices in India as well. Some companies that have good practices and have been successful. But I think it all boils down to taking in feedback and having an open culture.
Right. Tanaz, this has been really insightful. Thank you so much for it.
My pleasure as well. Thank you so much.